Hello, 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 my loves. You know what? As introverts, we have unique challenges. And one of the biggest things that we have that challenges are events. Not because we don't like events, because a lot of us do like events. A lot of us like these things. A lot of us like these different activities that we can do. But it's actually draining, and then we have to recharge. So we have to set up a lot of boundaries and things like that to make us successful. My guest today, Vanessa Gordon, not only created an entire business empire from home while looking after young children and basically being a multitasker extraordinaire, but she also deals with annual events. And this is something that she needs to plan for, set up for, do boundaries for. So she's here to talk to us about the tools that she has developed in order to make sure that she can have the most success while remaining authentic. Good morning, Vanessa. How are you?
Hi, good morning, Karen. It's great to see you.
So well, let's get straight to the chase. What made you go, I'm going to have a digital magazine and event company, and this is my thing in life?
Sure. You know what is so fascinating is I come from a creative writing background. So if you were to tell me perhaps 10 years ago that I would be doing everything that I'm doing now, I would say, gosh, you must be joking. There is no way. I will never forget just being a part of just different events, whether it was a guest or whatever have you. I was always so scared. And my main fear is, or I should say was simply, why would anyone care about who I am? I I was really nobody at the time. I was still in college. A very good example was when I went to go showcase one of my novels that I had written at a book event. I was surrounded by literally the best of the best. I mean, people like from Candace Bushnell to Billy Collins were there, and it was very, very overwhelming. And when I would go to speak with some of these individuals, and they were like so happy to meet me, I was so taken aback, but not flattered at all, but just so confused as to why these people cared. So the first and foremost was getting those feelings and emotion aside, but that took some time. So perhaps it was the support around me and perhaps the cheer squad that surrounded me as I continued to build and build. Um, Over time, and it took many, many years for this to take place, is that feeling of uncertainty or feeling of why should anyone care? It began to melt and melt away once I began to perhaps surround myself with the right individuals.
Yeah, Jim Rohn said, surround yourself. The 5 people you surround yourself gives you an idea of where you're going to be.
That's it.
How did you make that difference? Because like you said, it was who you surrounded yourself. So what was that moment you're like, well, I need to set the boundary here. I need to develop here. I need to grow there for the people that you interacted with on the most frequent basis?
Certainly. So what I noticed over time was if it took me quite an effort to get in touch with someone and they finally responded, I knew that they, these since these people were so busy with their time, that just the fact that they responded to me is already a step in the right direction. You always want to be wary of people that no matter what stage you are, especially if you're a beginner, they reach out to you and they're perhaps so open with their time or seemingly so generous with the time, like, oh, I'd love to sit down and help you out, or the word collaborate I hear way too often comes on the table per se. You always want to be very weary about that, because first and foremost, you want to think about, well, why is this person extending themselves so much? There has to be perhaps something behind it that they want out of you. So you always want to, perhaps keep your guard up. And I always like to emphasize that if it sounds too good to be true, it always, always, always is. Nothing is for free. Everything that's worthwhile takes quite a bit of effort. But if you keep on it, remember that if one person turned you down, if a dozen or 2 dozen people have turned me down, oh my gosh, I've had so many people, but there's always, always more ducks in the pond, I'd love to say, and never ever give up. So once you find those individuals that you connect with, stick with them and showcase, put your best self forward.
So what I'm hearing here is really dig into those relationships. create that authentic connection. And that is some way that you can actually grow yourself as an individual, not just as a business owner. Now, you started off being a creative writer, a novelist, and now you have an entire magazine where you feature different things. I mean, I was looking at it, the different restaurants. It's that very Hamptons style feel. It's a very luxurious feel. That seems to be very different from a novelist to a magazine. Why the change?
It's a very good question. So why the change was, well, the change happened soon after my daughter was born. I was doing a lot of creative writing and a lot of freelance writing, but I wanted to, I think perhaps it was that that ironic loneliness that I felt as being a new mother. I was home all the time, rarely got to go out. My schedule revolved around my infant daughter at the time. And I wanted to just keep my mind active and to have this opportunity to socialize and put myself out there. So East End Taste originally started off as a personal blog about my, adventures, if you will, on the East End of Long Island, talking about, where I was dining, what events I was going to. But what was quite interesting, though, is I still kept freelance writing. So I was freelance writing for a couple of the local publications out here, magazines. So when I would be going to an event or a function, though I would be representing that magazine, I had business cards made up that said East End Taste on them to create some sort of personal identity or brand, if you will. So when I would give the people the card, they would naturally ask, well, what is East End Taste? And I would direct them to what it was. We had a budding Instagram account at the time, and we had a small website that has since been completely rebranded, but so that's how it grew. It grew through those connections I was making through the industries I was working in already, and they wanted to learn more about me. But then what would happen is we would say, oh well, so say if I'd be at a gala event, I would meet someone there and they'd go, well, we have a function that more of a private function or a wine dinner or whatever have you that was taking place the following week. We would love for you to go. And I would say, oh, well, I have to get approval from my editor and et cetera, et cetera. They would go, no, 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 we want you to come, just you. Don't worry about who you're writing. We want you or East End Taste to be there. And that's how it began. It was this curiosity of, well, wow, you're such a great writer and you're doing such a great job. And it was truly such a passion for what I loved. And I still do. I love writing so much. And that's what it grew out of. And I wasn't making any money at the time. And the business, people say, oh wow, you're in the Hamptons, you must be doing really well. And I'm going, this is a passion project, if you will. So it grew out of a true, genuine love for writing and what I do.
So what I'm hearing here is you've got to go with what you love, because I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and I talk about this practically every episode, it comes up time and time and time again, is that introverts are shy and they don't want to do things. No, it's that we have different ways of recharging yourself. And when you're delving into something that's a passion project, something that excites you, makes you happy, it doesn't seem to take as much energy because you're rewarding yourself at the same time as you're completing it. So far I'm hearing dig into your passions, develop relationships. Now, we're talking about this transition. You've gone from novelist to freelance journalist who's now getting invited on all these additional adventures. We'll call them adventures because that sounds kind of fun. And it was a blog. When did that blog start to evolve? How long has it been evolving into this whole brand for you?
Certainly, it took quite a bit of time. It took a number of years. So it was a lot of bit of juggling, between, family and the business, but it was perhaps aligning myself once again with the right people. So all in addition to this, I had a part-time job teaching fitness classes. And one of the marketing managers for one of the gyms I was working for at the time, we had some sort of a concept for doing some sort of pop-up event. They wanted, me to be the face of it and to bring brands on board to do these every Saturday, these events. And I was already like, oh my gosh, this is this is a lot. So there was all that juggling. But then when he went to look at look at the website, he goes, oh, I don't think I've ever seen your website, so let me take a look at it. And he looked at it, said blog on it, and he looked at me and he goes, this is a magazine. He said, this is a digital publication. Do not call this a blog. Just scratch that word immediately. And I did. And he said, that's what's going to put you over the edge. Once, unfortunately, the blog is such a tossed about word, et cetera, et cetera. So we had a conversation about it. But once I put myself ahead and, then it started to grow. And then it was 2 years after that. So it was a very, very slow beginning process because there was a lot. My children were still young. I branded it and it became a business, I registered it as an LLC. And that's when I started hiring writers and, editors and small staff and a web developer, and, making it into what it was. That same exact year, that's when I put on the Hamptons Interactive Brunch for the first time. And that I only did that event is because I had a phenomenal, and I still do with the same event team that I work with. I had gone to many of their events out here. And I said, well, one day if I put on an event, I trust them. I see what they're able to execute. I will hire them to help me put this event on. Originally, what was supposed to be just an intimate 20, 30 person dinner turned into a 200 person afternoon event. But it truly, I surrounded myself with the right people. And most importantly, people that when I have an initial conversation with, and I feel good about it, I run with it. This was also another learning experience. If I, for whatever reason, felt uncomfortable, there was a lot of gray areas, uncertainty. And even though the person seemed, quite qualified, I never continued with that conversation. I would just say no. So it's a lot of, thinking about or trusting your intuition all on top of it.
Yeah, I was just about to say, that sounds very good in trust your gut. One thing introverts tend to be is empaths. They tend to be highly sensitive people. And it's because we have these hidden gifts. We are good at observing. We're good at listening. We're good at seeing those little tiny details that maybe others don't see. So I think that's a key point there. You've got to trust your intuition. So as you're developing this, and now you're at this 200 person event that was supposed to be this 20 person, okay, just a little thing. Let's talk about how, because obviously that's making the business very successful. And you develop this as well as that little change from, and to me, that is huge because you put out there what you want. And by downplaying it into a blog, you would just say, well, it's okay. It's just small. The minute you became a magazine and said, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm putting out there. You opened up the world. So. But you're opening up your world, not just as a business, but as an introvert. What are some of the things that you do that help you maintain your sanity, maintain your calm, give you your peace, give you your opportunity to recharge with all this going on?
It's a lot. It's so funny is, so whenever I'm doing, perhaps post interviews or recaps with some of my interns, one of the biggest questions they always ask me is, what is a typical day like for you? And I tell it to them, and I'm not even nearly halfway done. And they're like, whoa, that's a lot. And I can't tell you, I've heard the phrase, you've got your hands full. Wow. And most significant one is, how do you do it? Truly, I don't know how I complete my laundry list of tasks every single day. But once again, it all comes down to simply loving every single moment of what I do and remembering that it is a business. I'm a representation of the brand. So I always have to do my very best. And, we naturally there are days where, life gets in the way and things happen, and it's not always easy. In fact, it's very, very hard, but I've learned that it's nothing that's worth it is easy. And if it were easy, there would be a line out the door to get in, and there's not. It's extraordinarily challenging. And, with putting the event on, it's certainly a lot easier said than done. There are so many moving parts, everything from not only securing the venue, securing brands and sponsors, and organizing the details and the theme of the event, the color scheme, you name it. It's truly, the best way to describe it is like planning a wedding every single time you put this on. and it's physically and emotionally exhausting. But once you see the product or the event take place, and it's always executed to to the best of our abilities, it's quite incredible. But there's always so much on the back end that people don't see. But to be honest, I don't want them to see that. That's not the fun part. We want people to only to embrace and to enjoy what we've worked so hard for.
So with this event going on, you've planned it, you plotted it, you've got it all done. It's over. How long do you have between that event ending and the planning for the next event?
Oh God. So the good news is so it's a good solid 6 to 7 months. We are actually now planning this for the 2022 event, and we're just starting now. Sort of, well, we were in casual speaking phases for the past few weeks, mainly because costs have gone up across the board. There was a lot. It wasn't so cut and dry um, as it usually is, and also we haven't done the event in 3 years because of the world events. But we're excited. But usually we'll start planning the event in, I would say, late January or so.
So how do you recharge between these two huge events? Like you've got 12 months between you've got two huge events, 12 months between them, but 6 months of like intense planning part of it. Yeah. What do you do to make sure that you're recharged and ready to go for the next one?
Certainly. So what I do is I don't think about it at all. I let it go. Even I will tell you, there are people that pretty much approach us right away going, oh, we'd love to be a part of next year's event. And we're just very, polite but firm. And we say, we're excited about that. Please, send us an email now. So we have your or give us your contact information, please. And we will add you to our database, and we will reach out when the planning phases begin. And we're always very transparent with people. We say that planning begins in late, last week of January, first week of February. And I take that opportunity. I travel a lot. I travel a lot in October and November, as well as early December. And I focus on just different components of the business that are a little bit more, pleasurable and fun. And what's nice is we usually take the whole month of January off for the most part. So that's only that lull period, the holidays, we take half that month off, and then all month of January. So we do have an opportunity to recharge and reset.
And that, as an introvert, is incredibly important, is that recharging time. So now I want you to go back to when all this began, and you have the opportunity to give a piece of advice to any introverted business owner that's deciding to go down this journey. What do you say?
Definitely. So I would say first and foremost, go back to, trusting your instincts, trusting your gut, and also remember that not everyone knows the skills. Not everyone is an expert at anything. So don't ever question your abilities. So for instance, if, and don't ever, also most importantly, don't ever be afraid to, ask questions, and also to assert your authority. So for instance, say, pretend like I'm a brand, like I'm interested in being a part of your event. There's a lot I'm not going to know. I'm going to be so excited, but you have to make me even more excited and really be an advocate for your business and your brand. The reason that people are reaching out to you, that's 90% of the work right there. People are reaching out to you now. They're interested in you. They've made that major first step, and that's huge right there. So embrace that, really, take hold of that. And now the floor is yours, and showcase, now paint a picture for them. You've got their interest. And like I said, that's 80 to 90% of the work right there.
Awesome. I absolutely love this. Now, if our listeners are trying to find you, look at what this magazine looks like, see what you do, where would they find you?
Sure. So we are at eastendtastemagazine.com. Most major social media platforms, including, we just started TikTok. We are at East End Taste. For the event, it's Hamptons Interactive Brunch, just on Instagram. And let's see. And then I'm launching my personal website soon, but you'll be informed of that perhaps through those channels. You'll see.
Awesome. Well, Vanessa, it has been an absolute pleasure today. Any last words of advice or any last tools that you want to throw in our introverts toolboxes?
Oh, definitely. So remember, to know and always assert your brand and your authority, and never ever be afraid. And remember, the worst thing that people can say is no. So a question asked, a question that is not asked, you already know the answer. So remember, don't forget to put yourself out there. Don't always seize the opportunity, and remember, know your worth.
I love that. Know your worth. So as of every episode, we always ask our listeners, if you heard something, caught a moment, we go, I'm going to try that. Or, that makes sense to me now. Please put it in the comments on the social media or on the podcast platform, because we love hearing what catches your attention. We love hearing what tool is useful for you. So until the next time, thank you so much for joining us on the Introvert Toolbox. Have a wonderful day. Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you.